Good afternoon. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak. I represent St. Petersburg, Yabloko. Here in the agenda, I'm called as former MP. Now I'm called only member of the party bureau. I was twice elected a deputy municipal authorities, 2000 and 2004, elected as deputy. And I joined Yabloko in 1995 for Anatoly Golov's campaign, actually. He presented here. And some of the young people who are here near exit, they were not born yet then when we participated in those elections. So. And another thing, why I'm the last speaker in this panel, because I did a lot in terms of election campaigns for Yabloko, not for me personally, but also 2011 in St. Petersburg. I managed our campaign. As a result, we've been able to form our faction again in Parliament of St. Petersburg. 6 people headed by Grigory Yavlinsky now. But our very dramatic stories, I'm going to show that election campaign in St. Petersburg. Generally speaking, some time ago, looking at election campaigns of some of my colleagues, including those seated at the staple, I came to realize the secret of our election campaigns in Russia. I don't know whether you can use this experience in other European countries, but it's clearly so in Russia. But I tell you that secret, but I do it at the end of my presentation. And also, I would like to thank you for the very fact of organizing this event. It's fewer and fewer conferences like this taking place in Russia. And what's most important here is that this is one of the few venues where Russia is represented as part of Europe on equal footing. Because one of the key mistakes, including of those people who declared the European choice for Russia, but when they say Russia and Europe, and separate between the two, and that's a key mistake that goes down in the mentality of the people. We are partners. We are not outside of Europe, and that's why, as Vladimir Putin has said, it's very popular in Russia to say that we act within the boundaries of the government policy, and we all implement his principle, the Russia from Lisbon to Vladivostok. But the devil is in the detail. He believes that we should create such a Europe, and we believe that we are already part of such Europe, and this is a big difference. Our states are trying to find their own path for development and define it, and they say European values are not for us. If we think, getting back to this topic of election campaign, and what kind of values can we discuss with people in the election campaigns, and what kind of European values, and do they understand European values? Well, law working the same way for everybody, free mass media, free court, honest elections, and respect of the rights of minorities. And well, we are used to the thinking that the majority is right, but in certain cases we are in the minority. Maybe, well, in a particular apartment house that we live in, we may be in a minority on some count. And as one of the speakers stated correct, I don't remember whom, I think it was Mitrokhin, he says we have somewhat different objectives with other countries. In European countries, in other European countries, he said, is to make the government liberal. And in our case, we have to make a society a liberal society. Here, let me share 2 more ideas of our contemporary problems of our contemporary policy. Well, people who speak Russian would understand it, and I'll then say it in English. The first very important thing to understand what is happening in the country Potemkin villages all around the place, on both sides. What is a Potemkin village? Do you know what? Do you hear it for the first time? Raise your hand if you never heard about that. I explain what it is. We had Empress Yekaterina the Great, Yekaterina the Great, Catherine the Great, and we had an occasion in the city. We annexed Crimea. Back then, it was like 200 years ago. The first time we did it, and one of her guard would show her the new territory, but she didn't fly planes. Of course, she had to go through the whole of the country, along rivers, along land, etc. And what was happening there was ugly. So they built special villages along the road so that she see very nice images. So, and that was Potemkin. The person who did that and organized that, his name was Potemkin. He was her lover also, and that's why the thing he did was called Potemkin villages. And if you go from Moscow to St. Petersburg right now on land, if you move from Moscow to St. Petersburg by train right now, you'll see Potemkin villages again, but they're more or less modern villages, because some of the villages have been closed from sight by high fences, metallic fences. So, Potemkin villages again. And I disagree with Leo here. He says the authorities want to cancel all elections. No. They dream of holding the elections the way they hold them right now. It's ideal. Seemingly there's a choice. We have 4 parties within the parliament. We have great parliament, 4 factions within parliament. Well, if Yabloko was represented, that would have been 5. But 4 or 3, it's still multi-party parliament, right? So they created those Potemkin villages. The second word is lack of responsibility. Lack of responsibility again on both sides. First time they built Potemkin villages during the reform of 1990s, when they called those reforms liberal reforms, but they were not liberal reforms in any form. And the second example of lack of responsibility is when public figures, journalists who call themselves liberals and free journalists, during the elections of 2011, they said vote for any party except Unified Russia. As a result, people would vote for communists. They who were against Putin would vote for communists, just Russia, and nobody then admitted that they were not right in doing so.
When they were calling upon people to vote for any party, but not for United Russia. One more thing that is a very important and interesting thing. I believe that people who are listening to this through interpretation may hear the name Liberal Democratic Party, which is not a member of the European Liberal Democratic Party. When in Russia, the Liberal Democratic Party is neither liberal nor democratic. The party headed by Vladimir Zhirinovsky. Well, one more thing that makes us different in our politics here in Russia, well, people want to build a policy or politics without values, starting from the lowest level and going to the very highest level. They are negating these values. They even are mocking these values, and Yabloko, which is based on values, well, comes across misunderstandings on the part of people with whom we meet and talk. Well, I wanted to tell you one story, a dramatic, critical story related to the elections in St. Petersburg, to the local legislature. We had a faction of six deputies in the legislature, but as part of the people who are on our list, acting in cahoots with United Russia, our list was reformatted in such a way that they included some people from the lower part of the list who were ready to accept something from United Russia. And it took us a year to explain to the members of our parties to give away these false mandates. And now we have two deputies, Olga Galkina and Vyacheslav Natyak, in the local legislation, and Maxim Reznik, who were actually excluded from our party for participating in these falsifications. But we were the only party who did this, and well, the same rigging happened in other parties, in the United Russia, and the Communists, and Zhirinovsky Party, and Spravedliva Russia, the Just Russia, did this, but we were the only party that said that we will not accept rigging within our party, and we were criticized on both sides. The United Russia were saying that, well, you have 2 seats, and what's the difference? Which deputies you have, what the names are, and well, for you it's no difference. And we said there is difference, and people who call themselves opposition, the opposition, they were criticizing us for the same thing. They were saying that your rating is going down when you're saying that your deputies were rigging these elections and so on. What's the difference for you? So getting you back to the issue of values, I believe that elections are one of the key values, and we are the only party that understands this and is trying to implement this on a practical level. And the funniest thing is that people who come to the local parliaments with rigged mandates become supporters of the Prokhorov party, some other parties, and well, they attend the rallies for honest elections. And the media was showing them that these people are in the opposition, they are politicians, they are not rigging anything, they stand for honest elections. For many colleagues of ours, a very important thing during elections is to tell people that they stand for everything good and fight against everything that is bad. This is dangerous. Why? When a person is saying that we are in favor of this, that, and that, they are trying to ignore the situation in Ukraine, the law on so-called foreign agents, the Dmitry Yakovlev law against foreign parenthood for Russian orphans. Well, they ignore these things, and well, these candidates are not genuine candidates. Well, our candidates now realize that they should not be doing this, because, well, sometimes they say, well, let me go to the elections and not tell people that I'm from the Yabloko party. I would just say that I'm John Doe, and so on. That I'm not from Apple, but from the pear. Yabloko is apple. I'm from the pear party. And, well, when you don't tell people openly about the values that you are supporting, you will lose your electorate for good. Let us not forget that we should build our election campaign on honesty and values. Well, I believe that apart from these Potemkin villages, we should understand what elections are about, because what my colleagues were telling you about is very important, and I will subscribe under every word. But in St. Petersburg, we are preparing a guideline for elections, for restoring the elections, and it's called Restoring Elections. Well, it would seem that this machine is working, but it is working in a chaotic way. In most cases, it's working to support the United Russia party, but when the United Russia comes across its own election system, they cannot do anything. And, well, these candidates will be deleted from the list just for for misplacing a comma somewhere in the text and so on. So it doesn't work for them either. So we are writing these guidelines like a manual with 60 items which should be implemented. I will tell you 2 that shows you that technologies do not help. The first violation. Well, you come and the electoral commission is closed. You cannot even drop your ballot. You can be the best candidate, but there is no place for you to drop the ballot, and you can say that you can say in court later that the commission was closed. The second one, the building is open. You drop your ballot. You invite your electorate to vote for you. The election commission draws a protocol that you have won, and then the commission gets together. They rewrite the protocol saying that you did not win and you do not have an MP. Well, Charlotte, I think you're flabbergasted. You don't understand what is going on, right? But this is what we have in our elections, and this is possible at least, theoretically. And now I wanted to open a secret that I have formulated for myself. After listening to my colleagues, well, there was a joke. I just transformed the joke. Scientists once decided to find out how smart people are and how the brain works. Well, there is a palm tree, there are coconuts, and a person should come and get a coconut. So he comes up to the tree and starts actually pushing the tree and waiting for the coconuts to fall, and the scholars say, well, wait a little bit, think a little bit. And he said, no, I don't have to wait. I have to kick the tree instead of waiting. So instead of thinking, we kick. That's what I wanted to say. And, people want to do something without thinking that they can do something else. But, in this case, we should do something with the tree for the coconuts to fall.